I'm so excited to chat with Juliette Stapleton today on the Awaken Feminine podcast. Juliette is the queen of visibility and is internationally known as a visibility that sells strategist. She is a consultant, coach, host of the Show Up, Stand Out podcast and Visibility by Design podcast, and a thought leader on a mission to connect experts, coaches, and course creators to more and better clients using organic marketing and publicity. And I know she has so much love and wisdom to share with us. She's joining me all the way from Estonia, my first guest from Estonia. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much. Wonderful introduction. And I'm so honored to be part of this podcast and to talk to you today.
I'm so excited for our conversation because I met you through finding a human design report. And then I was like, oh, and then we had a chat. I'm like, you are so cool. You have to just come on my podcast. So here we are.
I'm so excited. I believe that people are brought into each other's lives for a reason.
Yes.
I never undermine any connection, and in a way, if I was honored to work with your energy and do a report for you, there is something bigger than that. And I just love how this all falls into place and there's new patterns that are forming. And here we are.
Yeah, I love that too. There's always a reason for our connection. So I'm excited to explore further what it is apart from the podcast. But before we dive into our conversation today, I'd love to know, what is your definition of an awakened feminine?
I love this because, when we were discussing going on to this podcast, being a guest, you asked me this question and I came up with the answer straight away. I wrote it on a piece of paper. I think I sent you in the form, or, I was like, oh, I know what I'm going to say. And just now, I don't remember what it was then, but I know it means really something important to me. And so if I have to tune in into myself and say, what is awakened feminine for me now? I think the most important thing is having a really strong stance in what is correct for you and what feels good for you. Because, and especially as women, I think that we are conditioned even to put ourselves on the last, like everything comes before us and our needs. And I really think that when you swap this around, when you fill your own cup first, magic starts happening because, by just filling that cup, building that presence, building that wonderful energy of calm and satisfaction and feeling seen and, just feeling on your purpose, you're actually affecting and influencing everyone in your network, everyone around. So you can do, by just being, so much more for others when you make sure that your own first is filled. And if you feel depleted, how can you give? There's nothing to give. So that's what being awakened feminine for me is, to just really see how powerful your being is. You in that state of wholeness and how it affects everything around you.
Yeah. I love that definition. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And like I said, whatever comes out is perfect. You don't need your piece of paper from when we spoke. So Juliette, because we want to talk about human design and marketing today, but I really love for you to just maybe give our audience a bit more about yourself first, so they know a bit more about you. So I wanted to ask you to just, talk a little bit about, who you are and why you're incorporating human design with, marketing, because I know you've been in the marketing, business for a long time, but human design is something that you've, introduced recently.
Yes, I am an online visibility specialist. It started completely intuitively. The first time I went online in 1996, I remember this as if it was, today, this slow dial-up modem, all that kind of music, the old school thing, and then bam, you're online. And the first realization that I had at that moment is that, wow, you're no longer with this technology bound to your geographic location in terms of finding your people. So if I have to boil down my whole journey, who I am, what I'm here to do, to understand, it's really to understand how to attract your people, beyond what you think is possible, beyond what you think where your limits are. And the internet was one of those things. And over the next decade, I've taught myself to build online presence for whatever the product that I had was at hand. So I started as I was a singer in a band. So of course that was the product, and I've built, a lot of profiles before we had social media called like what it was called then. It wasn't even, we didn't have that terminology. I already was part of the networks that were literally our social media for artists and, those kind of little things in the early days. And I think before, Facebook came into my life, I think in 2007, before that happened, I already really, really knew how to build a really good presence, how to create that shiny cover, how to position yourself as somebody, no matter if maybe you have to create a little bigger version of yourself and then grow into that version, because people people judge the book by its cover, and it's never going to change. So the first impression is really, really important. By the first impression, people will have this story that they're building in their minds. And it's harder to change that story if that story is not aligned with what you want them to think about yourself, So I like taking control over how you are perceived. And naturally, I was always doing that. And then in my life story, I did a lot of moving around. So I immigrated from Estonia. I'm originally from Tallinn, Estonia, but I immigrated in 1999, and I came to first London, then Dublin in Ireland, and I didn't know anyone. So I had to position myself. I had to do something, even in order to be in the music scene. I had to go and network. And that's not a natural thing for me to go and network. I'm not someone who's like a big social scene around me, but I was very strategic. I went to concerts and I took bands' photographs in concert. And then I would come up and say, would you like me to send it to you? What's your email address? I was literally a walking opt-in form at the age of 24.
Love it.
And these are the things that you don't think about, but it was just something I needed to get in this scene somehow, and that was the way to get in. So I have I think a gift for building that presence and visibility, and then with the online world, then you're not bound to just your local area. And that was a big theme as well in my past life, where, and when I'm saying past life, that's before, me becoming the queen of visibility. And it's not like past life as in before I was born. But in that life, there was a lot of lessons around being stuck in a geographical location with people who were misaligned and trying to, work out what's wrong. Why does it not feel good? Like, how can I feel better about being me even? And in my life, it's all about people. It's all about the correct relationships. And it's all about actually not trying to be liked or not trying to do things for some wrong reasons, for people who are just simply incorrect. And that is so important in our marketing and in our online presence as well, is to really understand that there are people who are correct for you and there are people who are completely incorrect for you. And the more you allow these incorrect people into your space, the more you're going to feel so disempowered, and you will just feel like something's wrong with you. And when you focus on doing it within, so what you asked me, what is awakened feminine? And when you're focusing on looking within for the answers, for the inspiration, for your self-expression, and really understanding who you are, why you are the way you are, how can you express yourself in a way that's magnetic, that's when things change and you start attracting people who are really responding to your true, authentic voice, because you're looking within. You're no longer driven by the agenda of, get clients or be liked or anything that is looking out. You're looking within. I am a personality test junkie, so I took probably every personality test there in the book. And I have to say that I had once I had a very, I think it's a very descriptive, but it was a negative experience. I was applying for a job, and the business owner asked me to do an Enneagram test for them. And at that moment, I was in a very disempowered state. It was a very, very hard year. And, my mom-in-law was very terminally sick. And, there was both of us lost our jobs, and me and my husband, we were really falling into this bottomless pit and without any hope to see what can happen. And so when I was answering questions, and a lot of personality tests are based on answering some sort of set of questions, I answered them from the point where I was, which was very, disempowered. concept. It wasn't a strong stance. And of course, then the result kind of showed where a side of me that can be a bit worrying about security and these kind of things, that side showed a bit higher than another side of me that is a real good researcher, that gets to the bottom of things, that's, has different qualities. And I was judged by this business owner the whole time I worked there, which was about 11 months. And then I walked out, and she was judging me on being a warrior and, and being, and just aligning me to what she read in the description of that line. And of course, yeah, I'm sure I have some of that in my personality. That's fine. But what I have a problem I have with a lot of the personality tests is because they're asking you questions, and you can either answer them from not an honest point of view, trying to, just trying to appear better for yourself, or you can be in a disempowered place or too confident. And so the results will be affected by that. But then you or someone else will come up with this story about you that you're stuck with. And I never felt like this is giving me the full really something that I could practically apply as well, even though there's a lot of personality tests that lead to some business programs and things like that and used a lot in corporate world. I don't see that they're very practical. The only one that I felt was more or less practical knowledge was Kolbe assessment, where it was all about taking action. And with my design, it just proved that I don't have I'm not interested in detail. I need to go the bottom line and make a decision. Funnily enough, in my human design, we're going to talk about human design, but human design profile, I am a huge researcher. But again, it's not about knowing all the details. That's just horrible for me. It's about knowing the essence. So it's still all there. So I came across human design in 2020. I don't even remember the day or how it happened, but it's just arrived. And human design doesn't have a shallow end. So human design is a personality profiling system, but it's based on your time and date of birth. So the roots of human design are in astrology and also in Chinese I Ching system. And in China, this is a system that has been underpinning so much wisdom and, everything. So it's a really ancient wisdom that was just explained and I think it was just kind of formatted, let's use like technical language, that's how I feel it was, into a more practical application. It originally was created with a view for the parents to teach their children that there is more to us than just what our mind thinks, and that there is this energetics that we're all born with, our auras, and how we interact, even the quality and the texture of our auras, it's very palpable to each other. And we constantly affect each other. We call it conditioned in human design. We constantly affect each other. So it's an art of not an art, but it's like a concept of how you interact energetically, how people perceive you, where in your energies it's hard for others to maybe perceive you or be open to you. Why are you getting pushback? Why are you getting resistance? Where are you behaving in a certain way that your aura actually is preventing you from getting results when you're doing things a certain way? And I loved it because it explained a lot of things for me. And I loved the idea that there is a personality that is at the core of every one of us. So there's a personality. And when I say personality, it's how we are designed in our energetic design, plus how we see ourselves in a way, how like the costume we're wearing, the clothes we're wearing. And there's a great example. So sometimes if you, for example, have to walk in shoes that are 5 sizes bigger, how awkward is that? You won't be able to run, right? So this is not you. And often what we do is we're trying to put on the outfits or clothes or shoes of someone who is not us at all. And that's why it's so difficult. And we're meeting so much resistance and things are not working out, even though they are working out for someone else. And we're looking at these people, we're like, wow, that works for them, so it can work for me. And for years, there's one particular coach that I followed who I always said, if it works for her, it will work for me. We're so alike. And we're completely opposite energetically. When I went into human design, I realized we're completely opposite scale. And so no matter how I liked her, no matter how much synchronicities we had in our, lives and, all these things that I felt so connected. And that's why I thought I can do what she's doing. I simply couldn't. It's energetically was very wrong for me to do what she was doing. It was leading me into burnout, where she was very successful with these things. So just saying something like it worked for her, him, and that's why it's going to work for me is the worst thing you could do. You really need to know and figure out, know yourself, first of all, learn, master who you are, and then figure out what will work for you. And I find that with human design, no matter of what the origin is, and that we're kind of looking into this woo-woo world, astrology and eye chamber, it's so practical because it explains so many things. It explains how to find the outfit that will look amazing on you when you're wearing it, and that people will, when you're wearing it, you feel good. You know how it feels good when you're wearing something that just looks amazing on you, but when other people also say this is like, you are so beautiful, and how does this make you feel? So expand that to the level of how you can show up in life, in business, because when you start, you think, okay, I'm going to just apply it to my marketing. Your whole life changes. I don't even look the same I looked, before it all started, because your insight starts showing and shining through you on the outside, and it becomes very, very magnetic. So human design, I think, is like a personality profile system based on your energetics to tell you what's the easiest way for you to get where you want to be in the most aligned and harmonious way.
Thank you for sharing that. I love human design. So I just love what you do with combining that with visibility. So when you discovered in 2020, so prior to that in your business, did you actually do any woo-woo, as you say, stuff?
Good question. I love it. I am someone who combines literally left and right brain at the same time. They just coexist. So I'm an extremely practical person. I'm quite skeptical. I'm the one who would say, I don't want to rain on your parade, but let's just bring you down to the, I kind of question, this is something that I have in my design. I question everything. And through that, I can see what works, what doesn't work. But I also always, all my life, knew that there's something bigger. So the Chinese Book of Changes, that didn't come to me through human design. This is something that I consulted and guided with it from, I don't know, early teens. Whenever it came into I just got my hands on these books, I was throwing coins and writing these lines and, seeing what's the guidance and asking questions. So I do believe that there is more to it than just logic, and the concept of letting your mind, kind of saying like, sit down, you're like a naughty 3-year-old, strap it in the child's seat and say, I am driving now. Stop this nonsense. This is something that is very, very natural to me, I think. And I mentioned personality tests. So I was always looking for the reason why, whether it was somewhere like, I wasn't into tarot cards as much, but I was into any kind of like, tell me, what can you see that I can't see? I would be that kind of person. I'm open to that. And human design came in the right time, and it gave me practical language for it. And it just really opened my eyes. And I started first just learning about myself. I'm a projector by human design, so I don't see myself and my gifts, or my aura is even shaped in a way that it's not spreading onto me. I can see other people and deep into them. But for me, I have to rely on the feedback of other people. And that brings me back to this concept of correctness. So when I have incorrect people who don't see me for who I am, they can't give me this feedback either. So I will never know if I'm in a wrong surroundings that I may be amazing, but it's in something specific, obviously. But when they're right people and they say, Juliette, this is life changing, you just transformed me, I had this big aha moment, and it's because of you. And I consciously don't even know what I did. I just thought we just had a chat. But I know that that's just the way, the mind says to you, you didn't do anything, because it always wants to undermine you and yours, and your gifts. But yet, with the feedback, that there's something that you're doing that is really important, and the correctness of the people is really important. And what happened then with marketing, because my marketing, I was, as I mentioned, from 1996, I was always building the online presences. And in 2012, I finally registered as a business and started doing it for other people. And especially, I was really good with Facebook. And I was working with local businesses, helping them bring the conversations and bring the relationships with clients they had in their premises online, like restaurants and boutiques. And because, there's nothing more magnetic than for someone to see the waiter that always looks after them in the restaurant, and they see them, a photograph comes up on Facebook, and they're like, I know this is, I don't know, Jane or someone, And that conversation really strengthens the relationships and brings back the business, So this is something that I really could understand. But it took a few years before I felt so trapped in the area that I was living in a rural part of Ireland. It was a very small town, wasn't really aligned. I couldn't say that I had my people living there. And I was working with these people, and I felt really trapped because, I felt like I'm really unseen. I am underpriced, and I'm working so much for very little, and I don't know if these people even see the value, because I do so much studying and research and constantly, improving my skills. And for these people, it's literally like she's sitting in front of the computer, because, technically they were not at my level, so they didn't know what I'm doing and why is it taking so long. But the truth is that, when you're within the incorrect people, you have to yourself decide, where can I find correct people? And for me, it was very clear that I need to look beyond this area, but I don't like commuting. So that was out of the question. And I was looking, and so the internet came to me. I was like, okay, I have to build my own visibility. And I started with a real hustle mode, and I was, sending friend requests every day, built my 5,000 friends on Facebook very quickly. I created a podcast. It wasn't actually a podcast. It was an online live stream. And I did 2 of them every week, every Tuesday, every Wednesday for half a year, build my positioning very, very quickly. My business wasn't growing as fast as my visibility was. That's why they called me the Queen of Visibility. I'm very good at that. The business wasn't, and the business wasn't aligned with this, because one thing is hustling and being there and being visible. And the other thing is really knowing what is your mission here. What is actually, my mission in life is to open doors. This is what I know now, looking back, what I do for people. I introduce them to a concept or an idea. At the time, it was maybe live streaming or being visible, using social media. Now it's human design. But you have to understand this about yourself, what you're doing, before you can be magnetic with this, because then you're consciously going to do this for people. Even before they come to you, you can open, let's say if you're a door opener like me, you can open doors for them. And with your vision and your blogging and your podcast episodes, your own or as a guest, you can lean into that when you get to know that. But sometimes we don't know that when we start. So this hustle mode and, just being visible, posting for the sake of posting. And it lasted for so long. And my business was sometimes happening. So it was like a broken tab business. So there was definitely revenue, and, I wouldn't have otherwise survived. However, there was no satisfaction, and I definitely hit the wall in 2020 as well. I was so burnt out. I just got so disconnected with what I was doing, because I was attracting people who I didn't feel like they really saw me for what I want to be seen. And for a projector, it's very important. And projectors generally need to feel recognized for this one thing. So a person can recognize them for everything else, and it's not going to give the satisfaction, this feeling of success that projector needs, even like air. So this is something that brought me to a complete, I was lost. I didn't want to sell my offers, even though they were good and I had clients with good feedback. I didn't want to sell them. I didn't want to show up. And I'm supposed to be the queen of visibility. How can a queen of visibility not show up? And that's when human design came in. And I started very slowly, thinking about, okay, so what I'm learning about myself, how can this be applied in my business? And also, more importantly, how can I stop saying to my clients, this is the way to do it, when I can see that even for me, some of these things won't work, but I see that they're working for, say, these clients that I have, and then for these are struggling. Why? And human design was just so clear. It just gave me this compass. It said, okay, well, this is very natural, because if you're a generator, not a manifesting generator, but you're a generator here.
Yes.
So if you're a generator, your pace is naturally slower than a manifesting generator. So for you to compare your pace and a manifesting generator, who are unfortunately, especially online, they're so visible and they're like always like doing things, and they're kind of vibrant fireworks, and they make the rest of us feel like, oh my God, I'm not like this. I want to be like this. They also struggle. they're not guaranteed to succeed. They're not guaranteed at all. They get so burnt out. But, we have a slower pace. Generators, projectors, we have a slower pace. And to embrace the fact that it might take longer, but actually, if you allow yourself to slow down, you'll accelerate so much faster. Every day at 11:11 in the morning, I have an alarm clock on my phone that goes off, and it says slow down to accelerate. And that has become my mantra. And with human design, and that's been before human design came into my life, I just intuitively felt there's something about it. But human design explained why. And I started leaning into it, and I slowed down in my business in terms of promotion. I said, I'm not going to promote and launch anything until I feel more grounded in what I'm doing. And my next natural step was to actually implement human design, because I felt like this was the door I am meant to be opening for people. Because I was talking about human design, and I saw the eyes lighting up, on my calls. I couldn't stop it was just so overpowering for me, and I didn't want to talk about human design. It's like someone who is like, I don't know, evangelist. I don't want to be like this. And yet when you believe, when something is so strongly showing the evidence that it's working, you just can't help it. But I saw that there was an effect. So when I talked about just marketing, people's eyes were dull and feeling like, oh my God, no, I hate marketing. I don't want to be showing up. And then when I'm talking about human design and marketing, people are like, oh my God. And even up to this day, I see sometimes people throwing their hands in the air saying, thank you for saying this, because this just took such a huge burden off my shoulders. Because that's what happens when you just allow yourself to be yourself. And I figured out through the research and through following a lot of people who are doing, giving business advice with human design. One of the reasons I waited for so long before I started doing it is because there's a lot of times when somebody maybe have built their business, we will believe them that there's a successful business because, how do we know? But they are giving generic marketing advice. And even the human design advice doesn't go deeper and doesn't actually explain certain things. So with my marketing expertise, I was saying, I don't want to be one of those people. I don't want to be saying these things and then they contradict what I really see. Because after being burnt out from all that hustle, I am kind of like an anti-hustle person. Now, for some people, I will tell them to hustle because that's in their design. I will tell them, you will enjoy being busy. You will enjoy doing this. Let's just do this. But it's not for everyone, right? And so it's so important that you have the expertise to back up the advice. And in my life, human design is a compass. And then my intuition, I'm extremely intuitive. I'm also a splenic projector. So even with my clients, my spleen, my body just responds and says, yeah, this is aligned. This is not aligned. So I can trust this guidance, which is maybe a divine guidance or the body guide. I think we are all divine creatures. So we have it within you. We just don't realize it. And so with that combination, this allows me then to work with people and say, okay, this is how we can be showing up without you feeling like you're literally selling yourself. And with my own business, the funniest thing that this last year, so this experiment, human design is an experiment because there's no right or wrong. And also because nobody lives in their design. We're constantly in auras of other people. The planets change, so they affect us. So one day I'm a projector, but I can be a manifesting generator for the day because this, temporary activations. So we're never in the pure design. The pure design is the baseline. Everything else kind of adjusts. And also it's very normal to sometimes make decisions or think or do things from your shadows, from your not self. It's normal. It's okay. It's because human design is about awareness. It's about catching yourself, when you're misaligned and realigning yourself. It's not about that you're going to, burn in hell if you, there's none of that. This is what I love. It just gives you a full freedom. You can become a successful business person without any human design, doing everything against your nature. You can. There will be a price, though, I believe. There will be a price. You might not reveal it. It might not stop you. You might keep going. But deep down, there will be a price. So what I was looking for is to feel good, feel harmony inside. And this year, I slowed down. I completely stopped promoting all the programs that I had. And I focused only on these marketing blueprints by design. And it was very scary. I did thankfully have some recurring income. I will be very transparent, from the previous programs that I sold and, some previous clients. So I was able to stay afloat, but I came to literally the baseline of my business where it wasn't growing to restart. This is the end of the year. My accountant is really happy, and I don't know how that happened, that there is just such a great growth in my business figures where I feel like I slowed down and did nothing, which is not true, of course. I did, a lot of research, but what I did looking back is I was leaning into what's natural for me to be at most times feeling that signature feeling for my energy, which is a feeling of success. And the feeling of success for projectors, when you're seen, when you're recognized. So through these blueprints, I was able to attract a lot of correct people that I could open the door. And that moment when you feel so much gratitude and you just feel this aha moment in that person's life, that is what gives me feeling successful. It's not about how much money is in my bank account. The bank account grows itself. Why, you don't even realize when you're focusing on the feeling. So for a generator, you're a generator. For you, it's a feeling of satisfaction. If you're feeling satisfied with what you're doing, not frustrated, the more you feel satisfied, the more everything aligns. It's like you become like a black hole of synchronicities, pulling in all the opportunities and everything, pulling it all in. So even if you don't know anything about human design or what they say you should be doing, as your operating manual in a way, even just knowing your signature feeling and doing everything you can to feel it, to be in it as much as you can, that's already going to be transformative. And then another part that what it gives you is you learn how you make decisions. You learn how you make correct decisions. So you learn to listen to your body. And with some people, it's not the body authority. It's how they feel maybe when they're talking, or if they want or they don't want something. So there's other ways, but it's about the feeling. And the more you practice this, the more you realize that it's actually always telling you what's correct and what's incorrect for you. My authority is splenic, which is a center of spleen is a center of awareness, a very primal center. So I'm like an animal. I am very, very cool in my emotions. I don't have an emotional center defined. And I do have these primal things like, I feel like danger warning, like hairs coming up on my neck, or, I get a lot of body responses, but I also have this guidance. Like I can look at the fruit bowl and reach out for the apple, and something inside me says, not the apple. My body is guiding me, saying this is going to be incorrect for you. Maybe it's too acidic at this moment of day, or something. And it's amazing how easy this makes decisions to be made. So in marketing, somebody reaches out and says, I would like you to be a guest on my podcast. And it takes me 2 seconds because this is a very instantaneous authority. I just know yes or no. Logically, I can't explain why is it a no, for example. I can't. It could be the loveliest person, and I genuinely can like them, but I don't want to be on their podcast because I know in my body it's a no. The more I allow myself. So what does it mean in this sense? The mind will always try to sabotage your body wisdom. So the mind will always say, come on, this is good for your visibility. This like, it's silly. Why you're saying you already committed? I can cancel an arrangement the last minute if I feel at that moment it's an incorrect thing to do for me. That's how the extreme of how I trust my decisions. And you know what? And all this the mind chatter saying that, oh my God, but this is, it's not something you should be doing. You don't cancel the last moment or something. I believe that when there's an alignment, maybe today is not the right day to do this thing. Maybe it's going to be so much better if we reschedule, and yes, last moment or not, but we reschedule and we do it when it's going to be at its best for everyone involved. I really, truly believe in this. And that's the freedom that I've gained by following my authority in decision making. And everybody has their own authority. You're an emotional generator, as far as I remember.
Yes.
Yeah. So you would have a response immediately, but you need emotional clarity in order for you to make a decision. So, for example, it's really healthy for you to not to commit to anything on a discovery call. Somebody tries to pressurize you, say, okay, we'll give you like 99% off if you pay now. And that sometimes I'm exaggerating, but they do that. But for you, it's not healthy to straight away, especially if it's a new thing that you haven't researched. Now, if you have researched, if you came to the call already almost ready to sign up, you can sign up there and then, because you've already done the whole research. If it's a new thing and you came to a call and you didn't think that you're going to be committing, you just want to, get more information. And even if you had a good response, don't do it then. Wait until you have, you went through your emotional wave, and then you have emotional clarity, so you can really feel if it's still a hell yes, do it. It's a good thing for you to do. Even if it doesn't work out, it's going to be a good lesson for you to learn. So it's always good to trust this guidance and trust your strategy. It really does always work. But again, as I said, you have to just master, you have to understand. That's why it pays off to learn about yourself in human design, and then maybe learn a little bit more. So if you learn about, you have an emotional authority, go and Google what emotional authority is, and maybe read like 10 blogs about it. Not in one day, but maybe, so go and read more and more, because different people offer different perspective, and maybe you need someone else to say something that just clicks. Then you're like, oh yes, that's exactly what it is. And so then you will be able to be so aware of how these mechanics work. And so you're making these decisions, and you have 100% conviction within you that even if your mind can't explain why you said yes or no here, it's the right thing to do. That's, I think, is priceless.
Yeah. I wish I found out about human design a bit earlier, because I have been on discovery calls where I'm like, oh, okay. And then I was like, no, why did I do that? So now when I do make decisions, it's always like, okay, I just need to, just take a few days to, ride the waves and then come back. And every single time the decisions now that I make is perfect, because I have taken that time to do it. And I love what you said about, we don't have to we can't do things the way some other people do it, because it just doesn't align with our energy or our type. And I remember reading the report that you sent me. I'm like, oh, thank goodness.
That's a general reaction. It validates what you're so afraid that it's this, and you think it's something is wrong with you. And it says, no, this is your gift, and this is how you can do more of this. And that's very, very empowering. Yeah. I'm getting goosebumps just by saying that.
Yeah.
For me, it was, talking about myself. And I have a 1-3 profile in human design. It's the most self-absorbed. And, even expression self-absorbed has a negative connotation, but no longer for me, because I understand that this is actually to do with introspective thinking. So you're processing, and then you're sharing what you've processed. And that's your karmic role in this lifetime. And when you think about it that way, you're like, wow, I'm actually in my role. When I talk about myself, I think, I shouldn't be ashamed, because this is what helps others just gather those little things that come out of me while I'm talking about myself and my visions and things like that. And in my content, and just this is explaining how human design can work. For example, the profile lines, they're so powerful in your brand voice, where type type is your energetics and how you interact. You can use that to determine your pace, to package your containers, to all those kind of things. Authorities to make decisions, but the profile lines is literally your brand voice. And it's so powerful. It gives you the angle you need to take to become more magnetic. And you will not become magnetic as in some sort of external goal. The magnetism happens because you're actually reconnecting with what's natural to you. And so it becomes easy, more confident, and just more aligned. And that's where the magnetism cranks up, because you are just showing up in a very, very aligned to your true self. You don't need to be anyone. I wrote an article once on staying in your comfort zone, because everybody says, push your comfort zone. And there is a comfort zone. Of course, there's a bit of a pushing. Usually pushing happens that you're living in this bubble of limiting beliefs. But when you're actually leaning into what's natural, that's the kind of comfort zone that's good for you to be in.
Yes.
Because that will make you feel and express yourself in a very confident way. And the other thing with the brand voice and the profile lines, when you see what your themes are, you can then see, oh, I would love to express my myself. For example, you're a 4/6 profile, and line 4 is actually a fixed line. It's a very, very opinionated line. You have your opinions and you're very fixed in your ways, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Now, you have to also then understand how the mechanics, how people perceive you. If you come up to a stranger with your fixed voice that sounds very powerful, the stranger can say, whoa, 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 stop shouting. Because that just happens energetically. And this is why people with profile 4, especially when the 4 is the first line, conscious line, you need to make sure that people are not complete strangers, people who you're influencing with. So the challenge here is to walk away from traditional marketing that says, do it in a broadcast form, because that's more aligned with line 5, maybe line 1, like me, I can like broadcast my perceptions. But with line 4, it's all about your network. There is this like a binary key themes: befriending and networking. So when you're bringing someone into your network, and you have to be so protective and precious about the quality of your network, when you're allowing someone into your network and you network with them, that will affect the quality of your influence within this network. So line 4, with their opinionated stances, is really influential, but within a network. Whereas, for example, line 5 is so much better at talking at the masses. Because the closer people are to them, the more projections that blur the lines of reality, what they can deliver and what they can't deliver. And there is a big issue with that. So understanding how these mechanics work, and then seeing, okay, so maybe just like posting every day on Facebook or LinkedIn, for me personally, is a kind of waste of time. Because what I need to do is I need to build my network, not just broadcast. I need to make sure people come to me. So how can I take them and bring them somewhere where they maybe can binge a little bit on me? Like, you have a podcast. That's a fantastic way for people to get to know you. If I listen to one episode of your podcast, you're no longer a stranger to me. You're already someone I feel like I know. And video is even better, because then, the nonverbal, all the other things that we do that you don't see on the podcast, you just straight away know it's my person or not my person. So great, time saved. I'm so into efficiency, with this as well. I don't want to waste time, and I don't have my own energy to waste. So I like, or I don't like. But for you as a line 4 person, this is something that, again, the right people, correct people, they will like you. They will want to be part of your network. So maybe you can bring them somewhere where is your network, where you can be like a queen bee amongst the people, and it's understanding. So if you have a maybe 5/1 profile, you are okay, like Steve Jobs on stage, telling people or telling what to do. But line 4, you need to be in that crowd, not talking from the stage to them. You're one of them, and that's what it's like you have this energy of a relative. And that's, sometimes they say line 4 people have energy of a friend. No, because you can cut a friend off your life, but you can't cut a relative. They're going to come back. They're still going to call you. They can't say, come on, don't want to talk to you. Well, you can, but it's easier to do with people who are not your relatives, right? I am someone, I have line 3 loves burning bridges. Our theme is like make bonds, break bonds. So for me to break the bond and never speak to someone again, I could like cross the street if I see them walking. And, this is something that it's true story. I know I'm very, very honest about it, but this is something that I've learned to be okay with, because I know the human design side. But with line 4, it's a wonderful energy, because you're still going to be there, and it's up to you to build that network. You can have parties that people just come in and hang out with you. Online Zoom parties, right? In your group, for example. The more people get to know you, and it's all through feelings. So it's not about what you teach them or anything. It's just about this feeling of family. And so when you create that feeling in your community, that's where your influence can be really, really strong on these people. That's why you have the fixed voice. That's why you have, your opinions, your influence, because for these people, now they're open to you. Now they want, more of you. And people with 4/6 profile build some of the very, very prominent coaches I know who have this profile. So, it doesn't mean that if you can't just broadcast to strangers that you can't be successful. You can be super successful, but you have to be smart. You have to use these people to spread the word. You have to use these people to bring more people into your network, because that's a healthy way for you to build the network. If a stranger, complete stranger, comes into your network, they could be a wrong person, and you don't even realize how they can badly affect. Maybe they'll talk about your back to people, maybe ruin your reputation. I don't know what they can do, but they can do it. It's so true. It's just this whole thing, befriending, networking, and then opportunities or influence and impact. So this all works together for you. And when you understand that, then you're very clear that some strategies that traditional marketing offers say, that's not for me. I don't need to do this. It's not going to work. I'm going to pour my energy where I know that this is more aligned. It's going to have the environment that's more aligned with who I am. And when you start, you have to trust in the beginning. Obviously, you have to do things in order to see the evidence of that. But when you lean into that, sooner or later, you'll start seeing evidence, and that will blow your mind, because the evidence will be so in your face. You'll never experienced anything like this if you haven't tried this before. That's what I can guarantee. And that's where human design becomes so valuable, I think, for us in marketing, because marketing, it's a bloodline of your business, but it's something that is also the most overwhelming thing to do for most of us. And that happens because we're doing things that are not correct things.
Wow. I'm just like, yes, 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 yes. All the things you're saying. Because like I said, when I opened your report and was reading it, I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Oh, that makes so much sense. And it's kind of like you already know it, but you refuse to listen to that voice because everyone else is doing all these other things. So it's just beautiful that we can use human design to go, oh, that makes so much sense. That's why I wanted to do that, and not what the other person told me, even though it works really well for them. So it's just fantastic. And thank you for explaining like the types and the authority and the lines and how they work in your marketing, because it's just so important, I think, to incorporate human design into like your marketing, into your business, into your life, because it really has made, I don't follow everything. I'm still learning so much, and it's already changed my decision making. So imagine if you start, learning more and incorporating more about human design, how much would your life change then? Like you said, you look different from before.
Well, that's true. But I have to actually say something here, because this is a really important point. You actually don't need to learn much about human design. If you only master listening to your body, like you're a generator, if you master that sacral response to and playing with the universe rather than just initiating from your mind, so if you come up with the idea, that's good, but wait and see if something kind of validates this and your body will go, yeah, on the outside. Then it's like the universe says, yep. So you're in partnership, and it's just to let go of this mind control and ego control and actually lean into this flowing with the universe. How much easier is that? And that's going to affect everything in your business and your life. And then, so this decision making, sometimes, it will be exactly the same for a lot of, especially generators. If they're pure generators, that's it. In the moment, they know and they know. If you're an emotional generator, and half of the world actually have an emotional authority, whether they're other types as well, it's so important to understand this whole concept of emotional clarity, because emotions are a very strong factor that can cloud correct decision making. Even if you don't know anything about human design, don't make decisions when you're too emotional, or it's something that is logical. And the profile is great to understand yourself and interaction. It's really good to understand, for example, human design profile lines of your family members, for example. It will actually give you so much more acceptance, love, understanding, and improve your relationships. So these three factors are the only ones. You don't even need to ever read about any kind of gates or channels or anything. You know why? Because if you follow your strategy, your type strategy, and make decisions through your authority, everything activates. So you don't need to learn. You actually, because there is no shallow end. It's a huge rabbit hole of information.
Yes.
But trust me, those three things, profile is just awareness, to understand. But following a strategy and authority, if you don't do that, nothing works. It's kind of like learning a foreign language. You cannot ever become fluent if you didn't learn the basics. And that's why, the original teacher of human design, 𝐉𝐻𝐻𝐿, said very specifically several times that you don't need to learn more than strategy, authority, maybe profile, because that's only for the experts in human design who will have to teach it. That's the only people who really need to learn this. For the rest, it's irrelevant because, there's other things to, in life to do and spend your time on, but these things will change your life. And I really, truly believe it because as I was describing, so say, for example, my decision making, that's life-changing. And I don't owe an explanation to anyone. And I love it. In 2014, I remember once I was with my sister, I was living still in Ireland, came here to Estonia to visit, and she refused to give us a lift to the airport, even though the airport is in the city center. So we took a cab and she was like, well, I'm going. And I was saying, so what are you doing today? And she said, well, I'm not telling you. I said, what do you mean? And she said, that's it. And I was so amazed by, she didn't have to explain anything to me why she's not, seeing me off. She saw me for the 6 days. It was enough. Whatever. I don't care what she had, nail appointment. I don't know what she had, and I love that because, maybe it was puzzling then, but now I feel we don't owe any explanations to anyone. As long, we just need to stay in our lane, do what feels right and correct, what your body says is correct. And that's enough. And in marketing, and it's not about trying to fit some sort of mold. You will still need to figure out, these energetics, but it's still for you to figure out and take some of the traditional advice and then say, okay, how can I take this? There's how to create great headlines. How can I take this and use my brand voice angle to combine the two together? So all the knowledge that you have, it's not like it's wrong and out of the window, but you will have this new prism that you're going to look at everything through that prism. By the way, we didn't cover all the lines or, all the types. I have a very, very short 2-part training on my website that it's free, that goes through the energy. So all the 5 types, so 4 types and manifesting generators are a subtype. And then all profile lines. There's altogether 6 lines. They make 12 profiles. And you can even see, and there's so much practical advice. How can you use that in your brand voice immediately? It's called Human Design for Aligned Visibility. And if you come to my website, juliestapleton.com, it's literally like you don't even need to scroll too much to get to it. So that's a good place to start if you are lit up by what we were discussing, but you don't actually know and you want to learn more. And then, if you want to learn even more, then of course I can do the Blueprint by Design.
Yeah. Anyone that's watching or listening to this right now, I've had mine done by Juliette and it's amazing. So I highly recommend it. Thank you so much for, imparting all your love and wisdom with us today because I just loved our conversation. I just love hearing you talk. You've just got this beautiful accent as well. So I'm just like listening to you going, oh, wow, all these things. And then, I want to ask you one last question before we wrap up because I'm just mindful of the time. What's currently setting your soul on fire?
Oh, I love that. I'm writing a book, Marketing by Human Design. And this is something that is a big journey. I started really well and then I stalled and I hired a book coach. So now I'm really, really I have this vision and I want to create something that's different. I probably started already with these blueprints and I want to have this information more available, but it's yet still through my own perspective rather than the classic sort of reading, because there's certain things maybe I see that is not really obvious sometimes. And I want to empower. This is what I want from this book. I want to empower people to say, wow, It's okay to be me. I can be strong in saying no. I can do things that I thought was selfish to do. I can say, screw that culture of mine that says all these things that, are not good to do, because they make me feel good. So I can do it because this is good for me to do. And so you just peel off all these layers that are kind of stuck with you on top of you your whole life. And open up that beautiful flower, or whatever way you want to imagine yourself, and just let it blossom. And that's what's something that really, really, it sets my soul on fire.
Yeah, I love that. And can't wait till your book comes out. So keep us posted on when that's going to come out. Yeah, thank you so much
You can
for this.
actually
Oh,
you can actually maybe try now on Amazon and see just
oh,
Marketing by Human Design. And
oh.
maybe it's going to be there when you're listening or watching this. If not, then, it'll be there. But that's the name. I'm not doing any fancy names.
Hey, it's, straightforward. You know what it's about, right? Yeah. Thank you so much, Juliette, for your time. I know you mentioned your website before, but if you can just tell us where to find you once again, website, any social media that's easy to find you.
Perfect. Well, start with my website, JulietteStapleton.com. It's going to be in the show notes here anyway. And I'm on Facebook. I'm a Facebook person. I am on other platforms, but that's all repurposing. Yeah, I'm not there. So, if you search me on Facebook, and there's a page, Marketing by Human Design with Juliette Stapleton, but there's also a personal profile. Send me a friend request, send me a message, say that you listened to this podcast. So I definitely then, accept it, because I know you're the correct person to be in my world. And yeah, let's get connected that way. Yeah, that's where I do all my talk on Facebook. That's my public journal. in some ways, obviously, strategically, but that's the best place to connect to me. But the website you might find my blog very interesting. I write a lot about what I see. So there's a lot to dig in.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'll have your details in the show notes so people can reach out to you. Thank you once again for this amazing conversation.
Thank you.